What's up, Bears fans? People want to hear me talk.
What's going on, Bears fans, and welcome to another episode of the Nicholas Moreano Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and of course, share this Bears YouTube channel with a fellow Bears fan. We're also, for you audio listeners, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll be able to find the Nicholas Moreano Show. What's going on, everybody? It's been a little bit since I last jumped on here, and just being completely honest, I have got the weirdest. This headache won't escape me for whatever reason. Just woke up with a headache, but we're gonna power through. Got a bunch of different Bears topics, and I asked you guys what you wanted to hear about. So I haven't put every single topic into this show, but just maybe one of the main ones, and we'll supplement that with some other Bears news items that have been coming out here and there. So, as the headline suggests and says, do the Bears need a veteran running back? I feel like that is still a major focal point for a lot of Bears fans as we're kind of continuing to go past the draft, looking forward to rookie minicamp this weekend. But the running back position is still a topic of focus, and that's something that we're going to start with for this show, just discussing whether or not the Bears need a veteran running back, when they'll add a veteran running back, if that's even an option for the Bears. So we'll get into that. There's a little bit of Arlington Heights news, new mayor coming in and what that means for the Bears. Watched a little bit of Zah Frazier over the past couple of days. He's going to share some takeaways from that. And then, as I said in the intro there, long snapper battle. We'll get into it. I think it's an interesting conversation to have, especially because I don't know how many Bears podcasts are talking about the long snappers or battles or that position in general. But we'll mention it. We'll briefly go over that in today's episode. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in, hanging out, and joining me for your Tuesday morning. I know it's kind of a random time, 8:40-ish. Need to get wanted to get on the podcast to talk, but also have some things planned for the rest of the day. So got to get things going. So let's get this show going. And and you know what? Oh, wait. Yeah, that's right. I made some graphics. So we're going to put some graphics on the screen to lay things out. And this should be the first one here. Wow, look at that. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off my display name. I think you know who I am at this point. If not, actually, if this is the first time you're tuning in, I'm Nicholas Moreano. We're talking about the Bears, and we're talking about running back reinforcements. Will the Bears sign a Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins? Those are the two names that keep coming up, right, when you're thinking about veterans. But here's going to be my honest answer and opinion to the question that I think a lot of people are still asking. Will the Bears sign a veteran running back? Will they? Maybe down the line. I just don't think anything happens right now. And I feel like there has been a lot of, just when you go on social media, and to be completely honest, you guys, I'm not seeing a lot of credibility to the Nick Chubb or even J.K. Dobbins discussion in terms of, there's actual interest there. I think there was a radio station in Cleveland that kind of poked that fire and then, sparked up a conversation. And of course, Bears fans ran with it. So other than that being the main source of things, I'm not really seeing a lot of traction to it. But, ESPN has talked about it with Louis Riddick. I know I saw that, just while I was at the gym. It would be a good fit. Sure, you could have that conversation. Would it be a good fit for the Bears? Potentially. But first it starts with the Bears. I think they need to evaluate the guys that they currently have. And that's where I currently am at with this whole topic of adding a veteran running back. First, this staff with Eric Bieniemy, Ben Johnson, even Dan Rochard too, they need to see what they have in the backfield and actually see it play out. And you're not going to, you'll get these mini camps to, get a feel for these guys, but you probably won't get a true indication of what these guys can really do until you get in pads. And even then, it sounds like you're really wrapping up and bringing guys to the ground So it's a position that you really don't get I think a true feel for until you actually get to maybe playing in the preseason or until you get to playing in the preseason or maybe have some of these joint practices. But to me, I look at like a guy like Eric Bieniemy. I think he wants to see what DeAndre Swift is about. Roshan Johnson, who Ryan Poles has highlighted bringing that physical role to the Bears team. Kyle Monagai. You have Travis Homer, Ian Wheeler, those kind of guys as well. So I think before the Bears can make a decision on potentially identifying the short list of people, that's what Ryan Poles said, the short list of guys that he has at running back and bringing them into this team potentially, you need to just know for certain that you need that guy. And why I think a lot of Bears feel like they do is like you could just go back to the Bears' interest in the draft in wanting to add a running back on day 1 and day 2 and some of the top guys, and they didn't end up getting an Ashton Genty, a Travion Henderson, or even maybe the guys that were in the 4th round, a Cam Scatterbo. They didn't end up with any of those guys. And they end up with a guy from Rutgers and Kyle Monagai, who, seems like there's a lot of good traits there. But you still got to see it play out behind this offensive line and see what a 7th round draft pick can do. And it sounds like, just how Ryan Poles was talking about him, where he's going to land on the depth chart. It sounds like if he does everything that he's supposed to do based off what he's shown on film, he's going to make the roster. But it's just not a guarantee with a 7th round draft pick. But I expect him to, and I think a lot of Bears fans do too. But let's say for the people that really want a running back right here, right now, want a Nick Chubb on this Bears team, like if you bring him in now, you do take away the reps, the looks, the opportunities for all those other guys I just mentioned. And why that's important is because this is a new staff that needs to see what they currently have in those guys. So I think for me, it just makes sense that you wait it out. And yeah, you know what that also does? It gives other teams opportunities to sign a Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins. But if you feel like maybe the market's too high for one of these guys, and maybe it'll dip down later on, or you just feel comfortable with the idea of those guys being gone, then that's why they would go this route. But at this point in time, the Bears about to head into rookie mini camp on May 9th, this Friday. I don't believe anybody gets signed. And shoot, I would think that you would go into the training camp and get a couple of weeks in before maybe even a signing is made. Just so Eric Bieniemy understands, Ben Johnson understands, this team understands what they have in the position. And if they truly feel like they need to add some veteran running back, they can find somebody. But at this point in time, I just don't know how much of an impact that guy's going to have, especially because DeAndre Swift's going to get a majority of these carries. Kyle Monagai. Obviously they feel like they have found a role for Roshan and then a veteran. And maybe that guy would, just supersede those other guys and be right there with Swift. We have to wait out. We have to see. But I just don't feel like anything happens right here, right now. And I know that, Matt Bowen works for ESPN, does a lot of great stuff. I quote tweeted his tweet about him. He was replying to somebody about the running back position, and very similar thinking that I've been having, where I just don't feel like they had somebody. I could be completely wrong. And like after this show, during this show, somebody goes out or the Bears go out and sign Nick Chubb. But just kind of reading and listening to like his recent interview with ESPN 1000 last week, how he's talking about the position. And I do have the exact quote here, I believe, or not, maybe. Okay, there it goes. I do have the exact quote. Just one more time and I know people who maybe listened to my last show have heard this, but just in case, this is what Ryan Poles said about when asked about Nick Chubb, if he watches like his workout videos, things like that. Poles doesn't, but he did say we have a great pro staff that's led by Jeff King, and we have a short list that we're looking at. So maybe even right there, they are looking at backs. And here's a continuation of the quote. Guys that are available, we always, again, stay opportunistic there and have conversation internally if this move is going to be the right move for us, if there is a fit, and we'll continue to have those conversations as we go. I know we really want to get this coaching staff with the players that we have to see if they believe that they can help us. But again, we'll always keep our eyes on the short list if we need to bring someone in to come in and create competition and see if we can raise the level of talent in that room. And so if you read that last part, bam, yeah, they are adding somebody right now, right here, right now. So I guess to maybe put a bow on this conversation, will the Bears add another running back? If I had to put money on it, you had to bet yes or no the Bears add a veteran running back, I would lean towards yes. I just don't think it happens right here, right now. So maybe that's the way I'm looking at it. They do add somebody. Just again, they wanted to add a running back on day 1, day 2. They got one in the 7th round, day 3. So maybe there's still that want for another playmaker. And as Squeegee puts in chat, if Chubb is healthy, he's every bit of the runner that Barkley is, if not better. I mean, Nick Chubb, so that's the thing. If Nick Chubb is healthy, we've seen what kind of runner, what kind of production he can be, or he has provided for a Browns offense over the years. We've seen that. What was it, 4 1,000 yard or over 1,000 yard rushing seasons? So no doubt about it. He can run the ball. He is physical. And I was having a conversation with somebody at the gym about this, where doesn't a guy like Nick Chubb, like maybe even close your eyes, Nick Chubb, doesn't he feel like he would fit the NFC North? Playing in obviously the AFC North in that division, physical. I mean, just what he was, doing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ravens, teams like that, Bengals. Like, it feels like he would fit, no doubt about it. I think the fit would work, but maybe Ryan Poles just wants to wait it out a little bit. Maybe the price is too high for a Nick Chubb, more than they're willing to spend at this point. Maybe it dies down if he's still available later on. You got to see how that foot is healing up. I don't know, just any of the lower leg injuries. You got to feel comfortable with making a signing, knowing that he has that to his name at this point of his career. Going back to his days in college when Nick Chubb was with DeAndre Swift. So there are things to consider here, but I agree. I mean, I think he can still be a productive player. I don't know if he's quite that guy still. Like, you're not going to be giving Nick Chubb, and you're not going to give him 200 plus carries, 300, like close to that marks that he used to have. Like that, it's probably just not the smart way to go about it. Especially, like, there are other guys on this team, regardless of how you feel about them, but that's just where I feel like the Bears are currently at with this running back group. But to answer that question, will they add somebody? I think they do. Just not now. Just not now. Okay. Let's get into the second talking point that I have right now. And let's see which one I actually even have here. Let's see. I'm pretty sure this is my guy. Oh, yeah. The UTSA 5th round draft pick cornerback, Zah Frazier. So I was right when the Bears made that pick, obviously, like what kind of happens, how I do things when I was at Hallis Hall there, then I immediately go into watching some games or trying to watch quick, whether it's highlights or like condensed games before we eventually talk to the pro scout that really looked into Zah Frazier. And then you get Zah Frazier in the interview on Zoom. It's a very quick process. Now, obviously, the Bears are still on the clock making picks. So, there's only so much you can consume in that little time before you actually talk to the player, talk to the scout, and then eventually talk to, Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson at the end of the night. But with Zah, it's a guy that is just different. Can we just say that? At 6'3", measured in at 184 at his pro day, he measured at 6'2", borderline 6'3", at his pro day. But the movement skills, the length, the speed, a 4.36 at the 40. Like, he does provide just a different type of athlete at that position. And UTSA has kind of had a track record with having these longer type of corners. Tyreek Woolen, right, from Seattle. If I were to put like their height, weight measurements, probably very similar. So they've had success with these types of guys, and just watching more of him, you like a lot. You see why the Bears invested a 5th-round draft pick. What was that? 180 or 169 overall. Sorry, 169 overall in a guy like this. But why I think what we have to see him on the field. Obviously, an older prospect as well. He's already 24 years old, and he'll actually be 25 in October, you guys. So older prospect. Why, like, he should have success in this system because of that ability to provide press coverage. And that's what Dennis Allen, I think, is going to ask of his corners when you're looking at them out there, whether on islands, whatever it may be. I think you're just going to see a lot more physicality at the line of scrimmage from the guys on the boundaries. And it's not to say that Zah Frazier is going to go out there and, earn himself a starting spot in his rookie season. I don't believe that to be the case, but I do like the possibilities of, him succeeding in this system that Dennis Allen is running. And, this new staff, Jalen Johnson solidified. There's no question marks there. No doubt. But with a guy like Tyreek Stevenson, I still think there's a lot to prove going into year 3, but his first year with a new staff, just having guys that he has to kind of prove himself to. And obviously everybody on the Bears defense does to a certain extent, because this is their first year with these coaches. But for a guy like Zah Frazier, what I was just seeing, just kind of watching more of his game. I watched his performance, and it ended up being a blowout. Texas versus UTSA. Like, Texas, by the end of this by halftime, it wasn't really a game. So it's a little bit skewed, but I did want to watch that game specifically because the Green Bay Packers drafted Matthew Golden in the first round, the Texas wide receiver. Zah Frazier was lined up against him a couple of times. And in that game, actually, make sure I have the stats right, because now it's escaping me because I had the tab open. But he did line up, like I said, against Matthew Golden a couple of times in that game. And I'll say this, it's the very first play of the game that Texas runs. Golden beats Frazier on it's an out route. Basically, it's an out route, but there's a little bit of nuance to it. You're breaking them in, getting up vertical, stemming them, and then getting back outside. So very first play of the game, Golden 1, Frazier 0. But as the game kind of went on, and like I said, this game got out of hand, there wasn't as many opportunities for those two guys to really go at each other. But let's see, in that game, okay, it was 56-7. Like I said, not a competitive game from UTSA on their part. But Matthew Golden in that game only caught 3 passes for 34 yards. 2 of those receptions did come against Zah. And I think it was that first one, but then a few plays later, they try a deep ball against Zah. And that's where I think one of his strengths is going to be, as he's trying to fight to make, time to play on the defense, is that long speed, but that ability to run with speedy wide receivers downfield. At 6'3", the long legs, you can run with guys, turn and run. And that's what he did on one of these reps, where it was a deep ball. The ball wasn't really anywhere close to Golden, but Zah Frazier not only kept Golden in front of him, but had a few steps on there, running stride for stride, as I put in my notes. There was and then, like, the next catch that Golden does have against Frazier, it's a little stop route, like about an 8-yard curl. And that's in Zah Frazier's playing off coverage on that rep. And it's like this start and stop ability for Frazier because I think he's a longer athlete. That's just, I think, it's not that it's unnatural. I think it's just it takes a little bit more for him to get out of his break than to make plays. And not to say that he's obviously made plays where he's breaking on the football when I think he understands what the quarterback's doing, things like that, and could just break on a play and make an interception PBU. But if it's sudden, I think some of those sudden twitchier wide receivers can give him an issue. And on that specific play where it's a 8-yard stop route, turn to the Golden runs upfield, turns and catches the ball. Frazier's a little bit late. But just some other thing. And like I said, there weren't that many opportunities for these two to go at it. And then on the third catch that Golden does have, I noticed in the second half, Golden's moved inside in the slot to Frazier's side, but they work that corner. He's able to run a slant, convert, get some yards after the catch, and you take one of your better players, Zay, off of a first round draft pick that the Packers went and go get. But just some other notes I had from that game that doesn't specifically highlight the matchup between Frazier and Matthew Golden, the Packers wide receiver, but just a nice job fighting through traffic on the pick route. Not easy to keep up with the wide receiver, but again, was able to do so. I had that the quarterback for Texas actually left the game with 12-17 in the second quarter. Then you had Manning come in there, and he was just slinging the rock and, go. Also, Archie Manning, 67-yard touchdown run, has some wheels. You wouldn't see that from, Eli or Peyton. I have here Matthew Golden runs a wheel route versus Frazier, but Frazier all over it, and the ball is overthrown. Frazier actually attempted to make an interception on this play. And I think the only reason why he's close is because he has that length. But, trying to be deceptive a little bit, get Frazier to bite on the out, and then up. Frazier's all over. And then I have for Frazier, just want to see him secure tackles. There was a 3rd and long play, running a quick pass to the running back in the flat. Frazier, the first one there, doesn't break down, doesn't make the tackle though. Oh yeah, I also just made a note. Like he's talking. It's 42-7 at this point, and there's Frazier kind of, jawing at some of the wide receivers. Him and Golden did have a few reps where they, Golden's trying to block him, trying to get off the block, but they're kind of talking after the play. So there's a little bit of edginess, I would say, to him. And I like that. So I think just for, again, the expectation for Zah Frazier in year one, I'm not putting anything in terms of his ability to be one of the 11 on defense. Like I'm not doing that as of yet. You also have Terrell Smith on this roster too. We got to see what Dennis Allen thinks of him, right? And the guy that when asked to play for Terrell Smith, I think showed reliability. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it just felt like when Terrell Smith was out there, it didn't feel like, oh, the offense is going to target Terrell Smith. Maybe that's a smart thing to do because you have Jalen Johnson on the opposite side, but Terrell Smith has showed some reliability in his limited opportunities that he's shown and has been on the football field. So for Zah Frazier, it's not really about that. It's understanding the system and being an older prospect. I think he should be able to get things down a little bit quicker, even though he hasn't started a lot. And that's the other thing too. So, the Bears make this selection they make a selection in Zah Frazier, who is older and he hasn't had a lot of opportunities to start. And even in that game I was watching against Texas, it wasn't like he was in every series for the defense. He'd be in there, next series be out, maybe the next series he's also out, then he's back in. So they kind of had a system of like corner in, corner out, corner in, corner out. So it is interesting with that. But I mean, I guess there is a shorter timeline in a guy like this too, with the age. Maybe you do want to see him out there a little bit quicker. But I just don't expect that to happen in year one. I think like like Zah Frazier's game will translate with Dennis Allen and the physicality of the line of scrimmage, I also think that happens for Tyreek Stevenson, where he can get a little bit more physical, get his hands on wide receivers before they start running vertically down, against him, disrupt the timing, disrupt the route, disrupt the receiver. So I think that'll be a good thing for Tyreek too, as he's learning what it's going to take to be successful in 2025. And you know what, too, guys, hopefully, like, with especially during this time of the season, trying to get people who know a little bit more about Zah Frazier. So contact some people. So that's in the works for future shows with people that have seen him up close, know about him. So stay tuned for that. But that's a little bit about Zah Frazier, what I was kind of seeing from him as I was watching a little bit more of his tape. But before we get into some other interesting conversations as well, I have to tell everybody about our friends, and as you know, our friends at Windy City Sports Cards. Look, they specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports. Whether you're a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, or Blackhawks, they've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles. In addition to those Chicago-focused items, everybody, they also offer a vast collection of sports trading cards and memorabilia from your favorite teams and players. So visit their online store to find exactly what you're looking for to complete your collection or to discover a new favorite. You can check them out at 312-WindyCitySportsCards.com. That's 312-WindyCitySportsCards.com. Actually, I just saw my dad yesterday, and he was rocking a Buy More Sports Cards t-shirt. I'm like, I know exactly where he got that from. And because I gave it to him. So it makes sense why he's rocking that. But also, guys, I need everybody, after you go check out Windy City Sports Cards and everything they're doing, awesome stuff. You need to go check out too, especially if you're in the market for a new vehicle, my friends at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, the one-stop shop for all your needs. And what I mean by that, sales, service, parts, and body shop is all available at Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, located on 1050 South Milwaukee Avenue in Libertyville, Illinois. The team prides themselves on their service, winning Dealership of the Year twice. Check out their website at NapletonCadillacLibertyville.com to see all their new and pre-owned vehicles, including the new all-EV Cadillac Lyriq. Also, subscribe to their YouTube channel to view more of their vehicles, which you can find in the description below. Napleton Cadillac of Libertyville, your one-stop shop for all your needs. All right, you guys, this is the Nicholas Moreano Show. I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano. Let's continue these Bears topics that I've compiled for this Tuesday edition of the show, and one that you're probably not going to see at a lot of places, and that's perfectly fine. But talk some long snapper. Won't be the longest discussion, but I think it is interesting that the Bears, they did sign, and this is where I think it's interesting. The Bears signed former Iowa long snapper Luke Elkin. And this is guy who's former quarterback turned long snapper, but they signed him to a 3-year, reportedly signed him to a 3-year deal with the Bears worth $2.98 million. That's not nothing. Okay. And I get it. This is long snapper news, Nick. Why is this? Are we being serious right now? A little bit. And the only there are obvious reasons for this. I mean, as we all know, going back to last season, the Bears kind of had had some issues at long snapper with health. You had Patrick Scales, obviously, not able to play. You go in, why am I blinking on our guy? And they just signed Scott Daly in March to a 1-year deal. He got injured. You had Cole Kmet long snapping in London. So there was a little bit of inconsistency at long snapper. And for a guy like Luke Elkin, who does have familiarity with the 4th round draft pick, Torrey Taylor, the punter that you signed last year, you do just want to make sure that you have complete comfortability in that guy that's snapping the ball. Obviously, Cairo Santos is going to be affected. The special teams unit is going to be affected by this one person. And I think that 3-year contract is noteworthy, especially when Scott Daly is only signing for a 1-year deal over just a little over $1 million. And just reading a little bit more about Elkin here, and a shout out to Ricardo from the Appleton Post Crescent, who wrote a good article about Elkin. Like, this is a guy too, while he was at Iowa, just reading here, Elkin was Taylor's long snapper for 3 seasons at Iowa, and the two have a history of operating at a high and efficient level as a duo. Taylor was a 2023 Ray Guy Award winner for top collegiate punter and an Associated Press All-American. Elkin said he and Taylor and a group of Iowa teammates were actually golfing together before Elkin signed with Chicago. So there is that chemistry there. I believe also reading in here that he's never had an errant snap while he was with Torrey Taylor. Long snapper. I don't know where the heck that went, but efficient when he was there at Iowa. And so maybe this is just something that the Bears look to actually really look into. And it's hard to quantify. I mean, obviously, look, if you bring in a practice or a tryout wide receiver, you can see how he runs routes. You can see how he's, attacking the football, beating a man coverage, or identifying zone concepts and sitting in a particular spot on the football field to be open for his quarterback. But for the long snapper, it's I guess you're looking at the velocity of the football, the spiral, the location. So actually there are things that you can look at and identify, right? But I wonder if looking at a guy like Elkin and his background as a quarterback. Let's see. Elkin was a second team All Fox Valley Association North selection at safety as a junior and a first team All Fox Valley Classic Conference Division A quarterback during the 2021 COVID-19 season. So, athlete. And to be completely honest, I don't know Scott Daly's background. So maybe I'm not giving him enough credit for what he does. But it is like you do need someone that's going to be able to get downfield, who's going to be able to make secure tackles. Like Patrick Manley was so good at that. Just running downfield, putting himself in a position, if he didn't make the tackle, to help his teammates make a tackle or to just limit big returns in the return game. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking at a guy that's going to be able to take the right angles, fight off blocks, fight through traffic, be at his proper landmarks, obviously snap the ball where it needs to be able to snap the ball in adverse weather. And, playing in Iowa, I think that's a good place to kind of showcase some of that, and playing in the Big Ten in general. Right. So it's just something to I think it's something, honestly, like I'll be monitoring. Right. Being an Iowa guy too, I think there's a little bit more. And just, I kind of want to see as he, once rookie minicamp goes, and then we kind of get the veterans back into play here at Hallis Hall. Like, what's the chemistry like? Right. Obviously he has a connection with Torrey Taylor. They were just hanging out before he got the call to get signed with the Bears. So how does that compare to Scott Daly? Right? I think that stuff does matter. Like the chemistry that you have off the football field, does it play a part in what you're doing on the football field? I think it does, especially like at a position like that where there's not a lot of verbal communication. It's, the punter, the kicker looking down on the punter looking to the long snapper who's looking between his legs, right? And then snapping the football. So there's that communication that needs to be had for those guys. So I will be watching. I will be just for you guys. I'll be watching that. So actually, I really hope to talk to him too at some point. Just want to, I don't know. I'm curious. I was in high school, like in addition to being we called it a wingback slot receiver, I was the holder on special teams. So that was fun. We didn't kick a lot of field goals back in Waukegan, to be completely honest. But when we did, excuse me, you had a sure-handed holder in me. Spin those laces, get them right for my kicker. But like I said, we didn't we didn't score a lot of points. We didn't kick a lot of field goals. We didn't move the ball very often. So when I was called upon, I was there, but it wasn't a lot. But yes, that is your excuse me, Luke Elkin news. Take a swig of water. My God. Okay. Last thing I do have on, I don't know. It's not a to-do list. It's agenda. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. And it's like honestly a topic that I don't know. I feel like I've bounced around because like you guys, I'm pretty sure we hear all this stuff about Arlington Heights and shovels in the ground in 2025 and what like there really hasn't been excuse me, I feel like any actual momentum in making this new stadium happen. I feel like there's more now. It feels like the Bears are definitely more open to Arlington Heights than they once were, where it was just the lakefront, the lakefront, the lakefront. Great. Well, the Bears, Arlington Heights officially has their new mayor and James Tenali. The G is silent in his name. I had to figure that out. Tenali. But he's a guy that grew up in Arlington Heights, has lived there, has actually went to school for architecture. He did go to Iowa State. It happens. Everyone makes wrong choices, but did go to Iowa State for architecture and actually helped build, some of those buildings that are in Arlington Heights. I think there was over like 12 of them. I believe I read. And actually, really quickly, Christopher Plasick, Daily Herald. He's been all over like Arlington Heights Bears, and I feel bad because like I feel like there's all this news that's not news that he has to write about. And so he said on Monday night, James Tenali, this was a fun place to be. This is actually he was a bartender back in Arlington Heights when the Bears won the Super Bowl in 1986, and he was a bartender in Arlington Heights at that time. And this was one of his quotes. This is a fun place to be, he told the audience Monday night. I told Warren, wouldn't it be wonderful to do that again together sometime soon? Maybe there's a road path to make that happen. I'm crossing my fingers that that's true. So it's not refreshing because the last mayor too at Arlington Heights wanted to bring the Bears to Chicago, but it's just James Tenali. Like there's definitely this want to bring the Bears to Arlington Heights, and I wonder. I probably have asked you guys in the chat, like Lakefront, Arlington Heights. Do you have a preference? For me, it's definitely Arlington Heights, but he does Tenali, or according to Christopher, who wrote this, he said that Tenali does plan to bring insights and expertise to the review of any proposal by the Bears and others, so that whatever it becomes is as benefit to us and only makes us greater and better. So it's got to be a mutual agreement, something that's gonna obviously bring up both parties here, right? You can't just have one, the Bears being the beneficiary of everything, and then Arlington Heights takes, the downfall for things. No, you need to both work at this. So it also just from a piece that was written by the Tribune, the author Andrew Carter, who did a great job as a profile piece on Tenali, was also saying that, one of the big things when Tenali was elected was to try to get this Bears stadium done. Like wants to kind of move it forward. And he's all for like wanting to host Super Bowls and Final Fours, big college football games, concerts, the kind of place that would be a year-round destination. And that is what Tenali wants and envisions. That's also written in the article. But I think one of the bigger, I guess, maybe it's not even a takeaway, but a timeline, right? I feel like at this point, because there's been so much talk and such little physical like momentum, like what does the timeline now look like now that we're May 6th? Cinco de Mayo, everybody, was just yesterday. Hope everyone celebrated. But what's the timeline now for a project like this? Your dome stadium. Obviously, you're going to build infrastructure around it. What does that look like? And so this was written in the article by the Tribune. In the most optimistic scenario for a Bears stadium in Arlington Heights, there could be a groundbreaking in 2026, a year from now. Maybe if things go quickly, the Bears could be playing in Arlington Heights by the end of the decade. The end of the decade. Will Caleb Williams still be quarterbacking for the Bears by that time? Hopefully. We're in 2025, 5 years from now. I mean, we'll see. And then this from Tenali. It'll take a year to get through all the approval processes. It's a process. And then he's also open too about like the White Sox wanting to join in on this. I said what I said about the White Sox because what's better way to keep people coming back than to be a year-round destination? Bears, White Sox, a full calendar of big events. So we'll see, you guys. And that's why I kind of left this at the end of the show because, like I said, there's news, but no news. Now you know, if you didn't know already, that if you're playing on a stadium anytime actually soon, maybe look to the end of the decade. And then you could potentially see that new Bears stadium being built, cranes in, the air, as Kevin Warren kind of has always stated. You want the cranes. I don't see the cranes in Arlington Heights. I definitely don't see cranes working in Chicago for a Bears stadium. So I think just ultimately why I don't bring this topic up very much is because really nothing's going anywhere. And maybe stuff's going on behind the scenes that's helping to get to a point where we actually see some actual evidence. But at this point, I don't see anything. You don't see anything. So we just need to see something here soon because 2025 is already in May and there are no shovels in the ground that matter. So that needs to change here pretty soon. But all right, you guys, that's Tuesday's show for the Nicholas Moreano Show. I asked you guys what you wanted to hear about in terms of Bears topics. So I have those all kind of laid out. I'm trying to plan out when exactly to take some of the bigger topics and make it a focal point for the show. But today was like that running back discussion, and it's still being a focal point. I completely understand why. But there was I saw a lot of you guys talking about the plan at left tackle, contract stuff, things like that. So kind of working through that, but also getting a little bit closer now to rookie minicamp, probably a rookie minicamp preview. Just looking at some totality of all the players there. I think that would be a good idea just to kind of talk about that. And then, there will be takeaways obviously from the weekend. And to be fully transparent, I don't know how many days I'm going to be able to make the rookie mini camps. Working on a different schedule here now, you guys, but I know for certain I will be there on Sunday. Sunday I will be at House Hall covering Bears rookie mini camp. I can't say for certain if that's going to be on Friday or Saturday. Got some other obligations to take care of, but we'll do my best to give you the coverage that I can and provide all the takeaways so that you're a more informed Bears fan after listening, watching, and reading my content. So appreciate everybody for tuning in on your Tuesday afternoon. Everyone enjoy the rest of the day. I think it's actually going to be pretty nice out today. So if you're in the Chicagoland area listening to this, so get out, enjoy, and I will tune in and talk to you guys potentially tomorrow. But make sure if you haven't already, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Subscribing to the YouTube channel is going to be huge because I have been inconsistent of when exactly I'm going on. But if you're subscribed, you'll get a little notification, whether it comes in the email, on the YouTube app, whatever it may be. So then you can just tune in, check it out, and hang out with fellow Bears fans. But again, appreciate all of you for hanging out on your Tuesday afternoon. I'll see you guys next time. But until then, adios, Bears fans.
Bend over to your right. What the was that? What's up, Bears fans? people want to hear me talk.